Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Gramoglia, the President and CEO here at Woodland Pond, and this is my weekly address for Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. I wanted to start today by letting you all know that you will be receiving a link if you are in our email listserv to an article that was released this morning by Hudson Valley One regarding the planning board meeting that we attended with the project application. And it's a great article. I encourage you all to read it. It really does a great job of explaining how we've gotten to where we've gotten to, what we have in our plans for this first application, the resident involvement, and it's a great deep dive. They actually also include some renderings there for a visual touch, and I hope you really enjoy that. So thank you to Hudson Valley One for putting such a favorable light onto the planning board meeting and application. I want to thank the residents and everyone that was involved in the Adopt a Highway quarterly cleanup yesterday. I saw a fantastic summary from Dave Smith saying that we cleaned up our section and the camaraderie was great. So thank you again to all of the people that are participating in our quarterly highway cleanups. It really does make a difference. I'm really proud of the fact that right there we have our name on that sign on a stretch of road so that people understand how seriously we take keeping the environment clean. And I think you should all be very proud of that. And I know that it was cold. So thank you so much. And we will see you again in the spring. We are still sort of in an water shortfall for the year, and particularly the last couple of months. And a few members of the Sustainability Committee have asked me to circulate, which I will, the tips that we had issued at one point related to opportunities for conserving water. We can all do our part by making some little changes. Obviously, it's winter right now, so some of the things that maybe would be taking a lot of our water, excess water, like watering plants outside or things like that, won't necessarily be happening now. But we do want to get those water conservation tips out to you. It's great for now because we're in a water shortfall from the rain situation, but it's just a great sustainability concept in general. So we will get those tips out to you, and just to be mindful of conserving energy all the time and also water. We are now finally feeling a little bit of the cold, and there's been some snowflakes. I'm sure you all saw how much snow hit the lake effect areas, and it means that at some point we could actually have some snowfall. So I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to remind everyone, and especially those newer residents that maybe haven't been through a winter with us, what the process is for snow removal when we do have a storm. First and foremost, the really important thing is to make sure that your car is being regularly started. And in addition to that, just being good best practice for the maintenance of your vehicle, it's also important because we have very specific snow parking patterns, which have been developed over the years that allow us to maximize snow removal. When it is time for a storm, those parking maps will be made more prevalent. We will probably email them out to folks, but they are around in the community so that you know where to park and where not to park. And we can assist with moving your car, but we need to make sure that your car can move. And that's why it's important to make sure that your car can start, especially when it gets colder. So the baseline tip is that we ask that everybody at least once a week go start your car and let it run for 15 minutes or so. The next thing is, again, when we are expecting a storm, you will most likely receive from us some sort of an alert message because although most of our residents are in tune to different types of media and will know if a storm is coming from weather forecasts, some of you don't. So we want to make sure that we get the word out and what we're going to be expecting. Every storm is predicted to be a little bit different. Some are ice, obviously, some are snow, some come with more wind, some come with less. And so for each storm, we try to customize our messaging to you. Reminders about having supplies to be prepared in the event of a power outage is very important. The independent living residences are not on emergency power. So this would be just like as if you were in your home before coming to Woodland Pond. It's very important, especially in the colder months, to make sure that you have blankets, a battery powered light source that you know where it is and the batteries are fresh, um, potable water, so maybe a case of bottled water, and just sort of keeping those things in mind. It's also extremely important for the purposes of possible power outages that if you reside in independent living and you rely on electricity for life-saving means, that we be informed of that. We maintain a list at concierge about those people. So if there ever is a prolonged or even short-term power outage, we are aware of who is reliant on power for that situation. This would be somebody that maybe is on an oxygen concentrator that needs to be plugged into the wall, or someone that uses a CPAP machine. There are independent battery packs that you can purchase to support yourself in those situations. And we can give you information about that if you are interested. But in the meantime, the most important thing is making sure that we have your name on our list, and you can do that with concierge. Once a storm is underway, our snow removal contractor will come on site soon after the storm starts and begin snow removal. They will be focusing on life safety locations, so sidewalks, entryways, those kinds of things. They're not going to be focused on your car, and they will not focus on your car and snow removal from your car until after the storm has completed. And that's our standard practice. If you do need your vehicle for some reason before a storm has ended or before the contractors have come and cleared the vehicles, please contact concierge. Once the storm has completed, it will take time for the snow or ice removal to happen. So it will not be an instant thing. It takes a number of hours for all of the cars to be adequately cleaned, and not only cleaned off, but also cleaned in between. And we do ask for you to be patient with that process. Finally, after all of the clearing is done, one of the things that we routinely see, particularly in like March timeframe, typically, we will see a freeze and thaw happen. And when that happens, there can be accumulated snow, let's say in the grass. It gets warmer during the day, and the snow or the ice will sort of trickle across the sidewalk. It may not immediately appear as a slippery situation until it later freezes when it gets cold again. What we need from everyone is for you to be our eyes and ears on all of these situations. So as the snow removal begins, and then as it continues or post-storm, if you see any slippery locations, please report those to concierge or reception right away. It's extremely important because our staff can't be everywhere all at once. We don't walk in between your cars generally, but you do, and you may find an ice slick. And I like to sort of jokingly say that we are officially deputizing all of you, all of the residents, all of the loved ones, to be helpful as part of our eyes and ears on making sure that the campus is safe and that we're addressing any issues of ice or potential slip and fall. Let's see, I think I'll go through some happy or not comments. We had a dining committee meeting this morning, and it was great. I haven't been to one in quite a while, and the feedback was wonderful. The dialogue was wonderful. It was great to see the back and forth between management and the residents. And I would highly encourage, if you haven't attended a dining committee meeting or maybe physical plant or finance, there are some really good and dynamic conversations that are happening. And it's a way for you to really get involved and either just observe or express your opinions. Dining committee is a great example. The chair, Joan Kleinegris, opens up the floor to the guests to find out if anyone has anything that they'd like to ask or add. It's really a great model, and I highly encourage all residents to try to pick at least one new committee meeting or interest group meeting a month and try to attend. You may find something that you didn't even realize you were that interested in. We got a lot of amazing compliments in Happy or Not related to Thanksgiving. People asking us not to wait until next Thanksgiving to have the delicious squash soup. Certainly compliments for many of the wait staff. Thanksgiving dinner was first class in every way. Thank you to the kitchen staff and servers and all the other support staff who worked on the holiday. Thanksgiving dinner was delicious, especially the butternut squash soup and spaghetti squash and all of the sides. The entire dining staff should be commended for the planning and preparation of the Thanksgiving Day dinner. Everything looked great and tasted great. No doubt a lot of work and teamwork, in parentheses, were involved. They pulled it off beautifully. There were a couple of requests for some improvements last week. There was something related to a misprint on a menu or mislabeling on a menu related to a quiche being gluten-free. So we did take note of that, and that will be corrected. There was a comment that the bourbon bread pudding was dry and needs some whipped cream or some sweet sauce. So we will take that into account. Okay, that goes into last week. Oh, and we did get a comment. I can't possibly skip this one. The service here is great! Exclamation point. I can't believe my grandparents live here, followed by 6 exclamation points. And that says in parentheses, PS, written by an 8-year-old. So to whomever left that comment, you really made my day. And I'm so glad that you're so happy that your grandparents live here, whoever they are. From this week, we've just had a couple of days. We had a comment yesterday that said takeout food. The greens in the small salad were totally limp and unappetizing, so had to be discarded. There must be a better way of packing a small salad so the greens stay crisp. This, along with vegetable size servings for takeout containers, did come up at dining committee today, and it's definitely a training issue. Jared has agreed to take that on as a direct responsibility to make sure that we're seeing improvements there. A comment about cod being cooked perfectly from yesterday. I had cod last night for dinner myself, actually. There was a resident that put an initial comment in that the portion of her chicken leg from a couple of days ago was extremely small. And then very graciously today, which is a follow-up, she actually wrote it again and included her name because she realized that she didn't the first time. And I really appreciate that because that gives us the opportunity to be able to go directly to that person and follow up and make amends if we can. So please keep these comments coming. They're extremely helpful. Before we get into calendar items, I want to just go over a little bit of COVID information. We definitely have seen, we had seen a number of cases in Garden View, which have now all resolved. We're now seeing kind of a wave in independent living. I think we've got 8 or 10 people that have tested positive and a bunch of other people that are under the weather. And in response to some people asking, are we having an outbreak? What should I be doing? I really wanted to try to get to the bottom of what might be going on epidemiologically in our area. And so I started doing some research because we're not seeing it in staff. And the cases that we are seeing, even in independent living, is tending to be like 2 people in a couple, and symptoms are mild, sort of reminiscent of a common cold, that kind of thing. We haven't seen any severe illness at all. I know a lot of you are vaccinated, which is great if that's your choice. It definitely helps keep the symptoms down. So at any rate, I went to the source, which is CDC, and they're actually mapping and had an update even as recently as November 26th, geographically across the country, state by state, where COVID cases are increasing, where they're staying the same, where they're decreasing. And then they do the same thing for the flu. It's on one of the tabs there on the CDC website. And while we are seeing, a handful of cases and people definitely being sniffly and so forth, it is common cold season and flu season, and apparently maybe now COVID has a seasonal aspect to it too. But CDC data is showing actually that New York State is neither increasing nor decreasing at this time, but that the overall cases are stable. There are, I think they reference 10 states where it is increasing right now. If you're interested, you can go look there. What was interesting though is that, and it's a color-coded map, the darker the purple, the more increase in the particular illness that they're tracking. So they had COVID and flu. Flu cases are 100% on the rise in New York. And flu, by and large, just kind of think about the historical flu pre-COVID and now. We have not had any reported cases of the flu here on campus that I'm aware of, maybe one or two, but it's not even really ringing a bell. They are absolutely on the rise according to CDC. So I bring this up because it's really important that everyone sort of manages your health in the way that feels right to you. And that includes vaccination, that includes masking when you feel like it, that includes staying in when you're not feeling well. And this is the most critical thing, because whether you have a upper respiratory infection, the flu, something else communicable, you're going to start to have some symptoms, right? And as much as you may think this is a minor symptom, you could be carrying a flu, which maybe doesn't affect you that greatly, but it could be, shared with someone else. So what we need to do as a community is we need to go back to and really be thinking about not so much this illness or that illness or this test or that test, but really paying attention to what is the right thing to do when we're sick. And that means, not being around people if you're not feeling well. Like, nobody wants to be around somebody that's coughing, sneezing, has a runny nose, because nobody wants to get sick and nobody wants to share that, especially if you have vomiting, diarrhea, a fever. All of those kinds of things, you should be 24 hours fever-free, 24 hours vomit and diarrhea-free. And your symptoms, if you have a cough or sneeze, should be able to resolve themselves enough before you come back out into being around people to where you can comfortably navigate your day. So if your cough has lessened, but you're still having a little bit of shortness of breath, there is not a good real excuse to be around people. You're still probably actively sick. So I'm trying to encourage folks to just really think about how do we manage community illness before COVID and get into that mindset. And importantly, if you do have some kind of symptoms of illness, make sure that you're reporting that to the wellness RN here in IL or Sarah or myself, and then any nurse or certified nursing assistant in the health center. And then we can help you manage those symptoms. So again, vaccines are available for both the flu and for COVID at your local pharmacy, which here is Walgreens. If you haven't had a vaccine, you can get those appointments easily. Theoretically, having those vaccines will help you weather a diagnosis of either of those things rather quickly. You can also get a pneumonia vaccine and a shingles vaccine. So it's sort of just general health management. And I think that is enough on this topic. Let's go into calendar items. The pop-up art class that is not on the calendar will be Wednesday, tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the Art Studio. Today, of course, we have our annual tree lighting in Independent Living at 2 p.m. And that is a great event. Tomorrow in the Great Room at 1:30 p.m., they're going to be decking the halls in the Great Room and caroling. So a couple of opportunities for that. This Saturday, with a preview on Friday afternoon, is the Woodland Pond Arts and Crafts Fair with bake sale. And there will be early bird shopping on Friday afternoon from 2 to 4 for staff and health center residents. I'm sure they won't turn anyone away, but it's ideally made for staff and health center residents. And then will be open to all residents and the public from 10 to 4 on Saturday. So thank you to everyone that has participated in getting us to this point. And good luck to all of the vendors. I hope it's a great day. On Sunday at 2 p.m. in the Health Center Great Room, one of the very, very popular musical groups that we welcome to the community will be here. That's the Vanover Caravan, and they're a dance troupe, and they will be here on Sunday at 2 p.m. We have lots of Pondoliers concerts coming up next week. That should be on sort of everybody's radar. They have 2 in the pack and 1 in the Great Room, and that calendar, those calendars with the specifics will be available to you. And next Monday the 9th, I believe that it is, but check your calendars. We are doing a financial deep dive on renovation projects. So if you're interested in that, we're going to go through that with a handout. The finance review committee of the residents has been instrumental in helping guide us in terms of how much detail, how to present it. So really hoping that this is provided to you in a way that's understandable, clear, and not overwhelming with facts, but transparent enough that you feel like you know what's going on. And the last thing for the calendar, next Tuesday at 10 at 7:15 p.m., Joe Cosentino and Fred Walensky will present their 6th theater night in celebration of the holiday season. They're going to do a recreation of Mercury Theater on Air's broadcast of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And that is based on an original 1939 radio script. Please sign up at Concierge and reserve your seat. And hopefully I'll see a lot of you at 2 o'clock today. Otherwise, I will see you soon. Thank you.